All right, I'll go ahead and just do a brief intro here because we're going to be putting this up on YouTube pretty soon too. Hello everybody, welcome. I'm here with Deltron and Azothan again as we continue our StarCraft Universe stream. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm probably still playing old Jape Skates, who's been retired since then, my old Firebat. But we want to put this video out really early compared to those because we are here with a special guest. We're here with Ryan, the lead developer for StarCraft Universe. Say hello.
Hello world.
Welcome.
How's it going? Thank you.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Sure thing. I'm really excited. So we're gonna be asking some questions as we fly around. Ryan's in the game with us. OP Marine. That's exciting.
Aren't they all though?
Oh yeah. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and turn the in-game sound down just a little bit to make sure that we're not too loud. So I know that Azothan, you had talked about preparing some questions. Why don't you kick us off? Give us a good lead-in.
All right. So, as a custom map fan, custom map player, mainly what I will say is I do Warcraft 3. So, I played one map that was called Duality, and it basically put you in a third-person control of a player in Warcraft 3. Now, that game was interesting, but it had its rough edges. What I'm wondering is, how did you manage? What were the difficulties in creating something so well polished from a third-person point of view in an RTS? It's phenomenal what you've done, and I'm wondering what are some of the major stumbling blocks you faced along the way.
Oh boy, great question. Where do I even begin with this?
Well, probably where you first stumbled.
So I guess the first thing we'd probably want to talk about is the fact that this is in fact an RTS engine. And it was designed for a top-down army control game, which means that it's a synchronous engine. So everything that happens in game has to be communicated with all players and then rerouted back to the server before you can actually have any of your inputs respond. And
Now, sorry, real quick, you just described a synchronous engine, and I didn't realize that. So basically what you're saying is that nothing can be computed until all participating members' computers have received the information?
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
It's already computed locally, but then everything has to be sent to the server and then rerouted back to everybody's computer and that has to happen 16 times per second. So,
and stereotypical MMOs do not function on this functionality, I'm assuming.
Absolutely not. Well, most MMOs these days are actually a hybrid between synchronous and asynchronous gaming. So for example, when you are in a shooter, for example, and you hit W on your keyboard to walk forward, you will see it happen instantaneously on your screen, and it'll feel like it's instantaneous, but it's not actually. You're not actually moving forward. There's delay. There's your ping.
Right, which explains the you jumping around on someone else's screen thing.
Right, exactly. And this is why you see people, teleport around, or sometimes you hit in the head and he's still running around. You're like, what the hell? I shot that guy. And that's just the nature of the beast.
Can you join me in the starboard corridor real quick? Because I want to express my fulsome appreciation for something you added to this game.
Sure.
Oh. They know what it is.
This is Azothan's favorite part of the game. I don't know if we've even gotten to see it yet.
His token.
Getting the cruisers.
Cruisers and just suiciding them and blowing up the enemies. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Alrighty, and problem solved.
So one thing I wanted to ask, so one big thing, I know a lot of people have talked about this, is they'll say, oh, I heard about StarCraft Universe, where did it go? And then they didn't realize that it had been actually released recently. So I was wondering if you could give us kind of a rundown for the development of this game, because obviously I don't think anybody would have expected something like this would have taken a short time to make. So I'm curious to know if, from the inceptions of it, what was the development cycle, kind of a postmortem on the creation of the game itself?
Yeah, so we started developing the game in pre-alpha probably about 6 years ago, when we were just sort of testing whether or not this could even be done. And that was before our first big break on YouTube, when people found out about the project. And I was developing it by myself, and then my partner Philip Meyer, he was doing his own project that was called his was StarCraft Universe, mine was World of StarCraft. And then there was that whole debacle with Blizzard in the name and all that other stuff, and we decided that we should merge our projects because so many people were so excited about the prospect of this happening. So at that point, we joined forces. We brought in a couple other people from the StarCraft mapping community. Dark Revenant came in. He was the creator of Mafia. I'm sure you guys have played that. He developed our physics engine. He was developing a kind of a shooter game and had a spare physics engine laying around, and we really wanted physics in our game, so we brought him in. And then we got Ghost Nova, Kiefer Traub, who was one of the best modelers around, brought him in, and slowly but surely built our team up. So from that point, we worked on the back end systems of SCU of the engine for about 2 years, I think, before we sat down and we said, okay, we are never going to finish this game, working our full-time jobs, doing all that stuff, real life getting in the way. We're never going to finish this. And at that time, Kickstarter was becoming extremely popular, and we were seeing a lot of indie games get funded like ridiculous amounts of money. So we said, okay, well, I mean, if the StarCraft community wants to see this done, then why don't we go for Kickstarter and see if we can actually get the game funded. And we did that, and sure enough, everybody was like, okay, this is fucking awesome, and they donated. We were successful, barely, and after that we entered, I guess, what you would say an open alpha state, where I think a couple months after we were funded, went into open alpha, and we let players in for the first time in a multiplayer setting in the PTR map, and really get a taste of the game, and find bugs and go in, and a lot of people reported bugs to us, and that was very helpful, having the community report back to us on that stuff, because there's only so much that we can do as two guys. We don't have a QA team, and we're trying to develop something that a lot of AA companies won't even dare try to do. So we did that, and we got a lot of the game mechanics bug free. We got the game fairly balanced. We could let people fight the bosses, fight the monster groups that would be put together. Did all that stuff, and then from there we sort of left the PTR behind, and we started developing the game's content itself. Now, originally we said, okay, well, we want this to kind of be like World of Warcraft meets Diablo meets StarCraft. But we were very desperate, I think, to get our Kickstarter funded, and we decided, okay, you know what, let's take a different approach to this. And we decided that we wanted to make it so that you could travel to different planets, explore different planets, and so we created the option on a high tier level in the Kickstarter that people could create their own planets and name their own planets and design what they would be like. Right. And so at that point we realized, oh shit, what have we done? We have to create all of these planets, all of this content, and that sort of launched us into the idea of creating this FTL-like experience where you are traveling to the different planets and constantly defending your ship and doing all that stuff.
May I pitch in here real quick?
Yes, please. Stop me at any time. I ramble. No. Actually, that was lovely. What I was going to say is that FTL is a comparison that I had not made, but is absolutely fair, and I think that contributes a little bit to my frustration and difficulty in this game, and that's actually a really good. That's a good model to go with, because you're right. You got to worry about your oxygen. You have to worry about your gravity. You have to worry about turning on force fields and
fires,
invasions and hull breaches and fires. Yeah, it's so cool.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the ship transit is one of the most complicated parts of the game. I mean, the most probably.
Hardest, yeah.
It is definitely the most intense.
We struggled a lot when we started, and I thought it was really fun. Like when you finally make it and you hear the atmospheric. Or when you enter the atmosphere and the ship shakes, and you just have a giant sigh of relief. It was really, really fun early on when we were struggling.
Right. That you can actually see, the planet approaching you.
The whole idea behind
the little details is awesome. Yeah.
The design of the ship was we wanted it to try to be as hard and challenging, but also fun when you died. Like we wanted it to be like, just absolute chaos.
Yeah, it still feels that way.
So
Also, some of the ways that a lot of the abilities interact, I wanted to say was really cool. For example, when Jay raises up someone with his ghost ability into the air, if I uppercut them, they will go higher and take
Yes.
more damage when they fall. How cool.
Yep, absolutely. I actually, that's something that I didn't really even think about when I was designing. So that's pretty awesome. I always like it when players figure out new ways to play the game that we didn't really anticipate when we were designing it in the first place.
Mhm.
I think that's what makes a fun game, is the ability for a player to not only explore the world, but in a way define it. And
Yes.
you've enabled that for the players, and that is why I love it so much.
That is a great way to put it. I like that. I've never heard that before. The players
Original
can
WoW
define
kind of
the
gave me that
world.
feeling. Like, you know, it was this huge sandbox where there was no reason to go invade Undercity, but we did it.
Right.
Hell yeah, we did it.
So I guess back along the lines of the development cycle, though, so there was, I think, notably one of the larger. So the Kickstarter finished, and then there was kind of a period where people, from our perspective, I mean, obviously from your perspective, you guys were working hard, but we didn't really know what was going on. And then suddenly, I remember there was a break in the silence, and you said, "Oh, you have a ship now, and it's going to be awesome." What was the? I guess what was the thought process before you went live with that? Because I know you at that point you guys had raised some money, and then you thought, okay, we're going to add this enormous change up to how the game functions. Did you expect it to be received well, or were you kind of nervous?
You know, I didn't really think about that. I was just trying to build a fun game, and I mean, I hope that people liked it, but
Like that.
yeah, I didn't really care how it would be received, honestly. At least not at that point. I honestly,
Right.
I cared how the game would be received when it went live, when we finally released it. But I was confident that people would like the idea, especially because they didn't get in and actually play it. Now, when we did actually release the game and people got in, there were very mixed feelings about the ship. It was people are having a love-hate relationship with it. It's very difficult, and honestly, if I could go back in time, there are a lot of things that I would redesign on the ship. You know, I think it's a great game idea, but I think that there's definitely some refining that needs to be done for it to be more accessible to a wide range of players. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean to dumb it down, but it means to make it easier to learn, I think.
Are we about to rescue cows?
Oh yeah.
We have never had this mission before.
And that was what I was going to talk about when you were saying, you know, a combination of Diablo, Warcraft, StarCraft. What I want to say is that you've done a very good job of kind of capturing that Diablo-esque feel where, yeah, you know, I'm revisiting the same locations every time I replay this game, but sometimes the characters, the enemies, the missions will vary slightly. You know, the elites I face and the drops I get. You did a good job with that. And this cow mission is a silly but excellent example.
I've never seen this before, and I've been playing a lot lately.
Right.
And then today was the
also-
first time I had heard about the mastery, the mastery weapon quests.
Yeah.
Yeah, same here.
Going back to talking about Diablo real quick, because I do want to talk about that. I am a huge fan of the gameplay of Diablo, but I hate the isometric view of it. I feel like Diablo would be such a more immersive game if it was third person like this is, and so that was one of the big design choices in making SCU, is to have the combat and, you know, the gameplay feel a lot like Diablo, but in a third person MMO style interface.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And if I may mention really quickly, there is a sort of theme in this game that involves moving enemies, and a lot of abilities center around that, yet it's generally considered a bad idea to take abilities that move enemies because, well, it'll interrupt, you know, your allies and stuff like that. But I personally love the idea of that being important, positioning, placement. But I realize that in the general StarCraft 2 engine, there's not much that actually moves units around.
And then also just to add to that, the environmental effects. I mean, we kind of have a love-hate relationship with that, but I think it's really neat. Yeah.
So how challenging is that to implement in something like this?
Well, the physics engine was insanely difficult to implement. We originally had somebody well, Dark Revenant, like I said, the creator of Mafia, he built the base of the physics engine, and then he basically said, "Well, all right, my work's here is done. Good luck, guys." So Philip and I had to go in and figure out how to get that physics system to work with the API that we implemented for the gameplay, and then we had to work out all the bugs. And I shit you not, the physics system alone probably took us a total of 6 to 8 months just to get it working properly. And but doesn't mean we fixed it in 6 to 8 months. That means we had been dealing with issues arising for probably 2.5 years before we finally said, okay, it's in a good place, don't touch it.
And I was wondering, that was my question, was the physics engine, and this is in no way meant as disrespect at all, but was it more of a thing that you're like, all right, let's get it to a workable place, rather than this is a thing that we still think super adds to it? Because I actually like it, I really do, but I see how frustrating it must have been from a design point of view. Was it frustrating to the point where you were like, God, sometimes I wish I didn't add this?
Not really. I personally love the physics engine. I love a lot of the things we were able to do with it. Like, I don't know if you guys have fought the Archon boss, but when he hits you with that beam and you just get blasted back like 3 times at an accelerated rate, that's something that would have been impossible to do, or very difficult to do, with standard StarCraft 2 force effects. So I'm glad that we got that in and we got it working properly.
Right.
Awesome.
Or when he just lifts you up in the air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From a design perspective, it may not be the best approach to take when it comes to creating abilities. Like, I don't know if you play a game like Heroes of the Storm, you'll realize that the force effects generally do not interact with one another too much, and there's set distances on everything. You know, there's no terrain elevation is not a factor. There's no drag. There's nothing like that. And then that's a design choice that those developers made to make sure that they had a more controlled and balanced gameplay. We decided this game was primarily focused on PvE, so balance was not as much of a factor. So we wanted things to be as fun as possible, and just decided to go ahead and go nuts with the physics sometimes.
I love that.
Yeah, the uppercut combinations are pretty enjoyable.
Awesome. I don't know if you guys have gotten like you can get like 3 preservers or 3 high templars, and you can I'm pretty sure you can stack your exertion beams, and you can just like blast the enemy back very, very quickly. Or you could have one guy pull him and one guy push him, and then he's kind of stuck in between those 2 players trying to figure out where the hell to go.
Oh, that's pretty
I don't
neat.
know. I watch Super Smash Brothers. I know about the wombo combo.
Nice.
So
We got a ghost here.
we got a free ghost?
That
We got
was
a couple recruits, yeah.
Not
Nice.
to interrupt
Yeah.
you, Jay, here, but I wanted to talk about the skins really quickly. So you guys have included a lot of really cool skins and a lot of
Really cool
peripheral lore.
custom models as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's obviously something we wanted to do. If we were making an RPG, we wanted people to look different. So on the relic aspects, you basically kind of choose your play style on what relic you choose in the beginning, and then that drastically changes the way your player looks. And we wanted players to kind of easily be able to identify what other people on their team were picking as their roles. So that they could spec their character properly when going into missions together, or just forming a party in general. So, but that's just the gameplay part of it. I mean, we wanted people to look cool, and we wanted them to become attached to their characters intimately. Not too intimately though.
Just intimately enough.
Don't unzip your pants when you're playing SCA. That's weird.
Yes.
It's kind of cool because I know at Azothan so many times we've been traveling, and you'll be like, oh my god, this zealot looks so cool, and it's
Right.
an unplayable character of yours, but it's still awesome.
Like, I want the skin so badly.
But
Yeah,
the
I noticed
technology's
a lot-
not there, guys. It's not.
Yeah.
Can't implement skins.
So
Ryan,
jumping back really quick, I wanted to say a compliment to your physics idea was that I love the zealot where he can put a leash on someone and then immediately power punch them so far away that the leash stun goes off and does the damage. What a wonderful, like, subtle kind of complementary build using physics.
Thank you for recognizing the synergy. I mean, a lot of people have said, "Oh, there's no synergy in this game," and I'm like, and it may not be very obvious what this. I think Blizzard does a very good job of making it obvious what your synergy is supposed to be, but whereas we kind of let players explore with it to figure it out. Designing this many abilities is very, very challenging if you're going to go in and think about every little thing. And to be quite honest, we did not go in and think about every little detail. We were just like, hey, what sounds fun? Okay, let's do it. Because, you know.
Yeah, I was amazed by the number of abilities that each class has, each character has, and just the thought of how much time went into making those.
Yeah, I kind of expected that the abilities I started with was going to be it, and that's absolutely not true.
No,
there's so many more. So
speaking of which, before we go to the next planet, remind me to take back my taunt ability because I'm not tanking at all.
It's no problem.
I think we got this.
All right, yeah, no, we're doing.
So I'm vaguely familiar with map making. I don't make my own maps, but I play a lot of them, so I do have some decent insight to how things are made in the editor. And I imagine that this is just so far beyond my understanding. But my question is, so beyond Caprulu, not the 3 prologues, but the actual release map is its own single map. So there are loading screens that you guys have artificially put in when you're transferring between the ship and the planets and then back and forth. But it's all one map. So like right now, we're on a loading screen, but we're not actually moving to a different map. So how did you... Is it just one giant, enormous map with little bits and pieces all around it for the different planets and on the ship and that kind of stuff?
So how large of a map file?
I want to explain this to you, but I'm so afraid that it'll really ruin the immersion.
Oh, it won't.
It might ruin the immersion for a lot of our viewers. But I mean, I can tell you if you really want to know.
It's up to, it's up to you if you'd rather keep it as a trade secret.
Here's the thing.
It's not necessarily
if you tell us right now, maybe 27 people will know, and Jay can cut it out in the future.
All right, I'll show you guys. Follow me into the port hangar.
Okay.
Oh, we can see it in game.
That's kind of cool. I mean, I know we've talked about how cool it is looking to approach planets. I just have to wonder what we're about to have revealed to us.
The secret of StarCraft Universe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here's one thing the lead developer of StarCraft Universe doesn't want anybody to know.
Click to find out more.
Exclusive content, guys. Maybe this could be the title of your video. So, open up your minimap now.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Everything beyond. All right. Actually, let me start over. All right. So the map itself, when we open it in the other, it's the Jumeirah. It's the ship, right?
Uh-huh.
And everything behind the hangars is pathed manually, but then we use these dynamic pathing blockers here, these really simple square dynamic pathing blockers around the hangars to keep players in and keep players feeling like they're on the bridge and everything and not walking off into space.
Right.
And then what happens is everything from the back of the hangars and beyond, when you land on a planet, is the foreground for the planets. So basically the top 5/8 of the map. Well, no, that's a good map. I would say the top 3/8 of the map is where you're actually at when you're on the planets. So the entire ship gets destroyed or hidden, and then the planet itself gets loaded through XML, through an XML script, and generated as soon as you land on the planet. And all these dynamic pathing blockers around the hangars get destroyed, and we create hundreds and hundreds of dynamic pathing blockers on the planets themselves to work as the pathing. So none of the pathing on planets is painted. We actually had to do that with units.
Speaking of pathing on planets, there have been a few times when we're like, oh, come on, I can see that missile turret. I just want to activate it.
Yeah.
But it's behind rocks.
It's randomly generated though, which is impressive.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think
I think
that ruined
that's
the
a-
immersion at all. That
think
if
that's a
anything,
genius.
that's it's very clever.
So,
If anything,
very
that's
clever,
really
yeah.
interesting to learn.
And I think a lot of, I mean, us three, we're not necessarily map makers. I mean, we aren't map makers, but
No.
a lot of people that are going to watch this, I'm sure they'll be very interested in that. So, especially
Yeah,
from the Mapster community. So,
Probably go back and do like a making of retrospective video of, you know, how the creation of StarCraft Universe. I think that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean something like this, it's really a marvel when you think, well, not you because you did it, but when someone like me, I play it, I have a vague understanding more so than the average player of what goes into this. It's just I could not imagine the amount of time that went into this, and it sounds like we're like overly selling you, and it's because. I mean, I know I am because I've put that much time into this and I enjoy it that much. It's not because I'm not like being promoted to do this or anything. Like I genuinely think this is one of the coolest things that I've played.
No, Jay, work the
Thanks,
shaft,
man.
you dirty bitch.
I like this guy.
Is there a specific planet that you and your team are most proud of?
Specific planet.
besides
really
the
really
final
like
one.
Really like the way
Yeah.
Dirigent looks. It's the planet where you fight the Colossus. I think
that's a neat one.
I think Benjamin did a great job with that. Benjamin Hetherington was our he designed about half of the planets and about half of the environment in Prologue 2. He's a really good terrainer. And
Is there anywhere that we should check out his other work or a website or something we can?
I don't think he has a website, but he's all over SC2 Mapster. If you just search for Nebulae, I think he's got a lot of terrain that he's screenshotted and has shown on there. But yeah, like the docking platform, like he made the docking platform where you fight the Leviathan.
Ooh, okay, because that was actually what sold me on this game. I was like, this is epic. So I'm gonna check out more of his stuff.
Very cool.
So one of the more interesting planets, I would say, is the prison riot one. And I was just wondering, what was the idea behind that? 'Cause it's
To be honest, that's sort
You
of
ever seen the movie The Rock?
So I'm gonna let everybody in on a little secret. The lore in the game is not done. Like, I don't know if you have noticed, but you start off in this game, right? And you have Prologue 1 and Prologue 2. It's very story heavy. There's a lot of voice acted dialogue.
Right.
And then even in Prologue 3 when you're learning the ship. And then you sort of get into the main game and then it's just go to this planet, kill this thing. Not a whole lot of dialogue or story in between until you actually get to the end of the game.
Okay.
And that is primarily because development kind of took a hit, and we didn't really have the time. I kind of got writer's block on a lot of things, and unfortunately, we had a lot more planned with the story. I still have more script that we were not able to implement. And the prison was sort of one of those things where they, you'd go in, there would be a lot more voice acted things, and just to sort of draw you into the mission a bit more. So you go into that mission, you're just like, oh, I'm in a prison now. What the hell? They're killing each other. Why are these guys beating the shit out of me? That thought probably crossed your mind at some point.
Yeah, you just sort of click on people and then you kill them.
Right.
It was kind of like, hey, are you down? And he was like, no. And you're like, cool. Slit your throat.
The thing is, it still made most of the missions make some semblance of sense in this because you are adding to your ship. So in that one, you rescue members of the security team, and then you get a security team buff, that kind of stuff. So in that sense, it still makes sense. But I mean, I understand what you're saying. We haven't gotten to the very end yet, though, so I'm very excited to see that.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you were saying that the lore is not done, but my question would be, did you mean to incorporate more lore and or story after, quote-unquote, the final boss?
No, not necessarily. Actually, that's one thing that we've always known. We've always known how it was going to start and how it was going to end.
That's awesome.
but figuring out the in between. And I feel like we did a good job of setting the setting. That sounds stupid, but it makes sense to me. Of putting the setting up and letting players understand what their main objective was, what the heck that they were doing. And even though there isn't a whole lot of story and lore in between Prologue 3 and the end of the game, I think players kind of get what they're doing here, and we explained enough so that the game makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. The levels, like when we get to planets where there's a lot of exposition, we get excited. Like, yes!
Oh, they're talking about the racist guy.
More story.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and I really wish that there was more of that, and I wish we had more time to do that, because that's something that I love to do, is write and work with the voice actors and stuff. And that was a big part of my job, was writing the story, recruiting the voice actors, contracting the voice actors, recording with the voice actors, audio editing, and then implementing all that stuff into the game where it was supposed to go. That was a big part of the job.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you more about the voice acting in general, like how you chose your voice actors. Because I noticed, we noticed that Zarash is voice acted by one of the people from the Ana Chronicles, correct?
Yeah. Eric Dieter, man, isn't he awesome?
Yeah. So did he reach out to you, or did you find him? He
reached out to us initially when we released our first ever gameplay trailer of StarCraft Universe, which is no longer even on YouTube, sadly. He sent us the lines that were being displayed as a subtitle over Zeratul ship as it was flying through space. He sent us those lines in an email, I think, in his Zarash voice, and I fucking thought that it was Peter Cullen. Somebody is.
Oh,
It looks like Jay. Are you lagging, buddy?
my game crashed. No.
Yay!
Oh!
I noticed it was starting to slow down a little bit, so I'm gonna hop back in here. Continue
Okay.
the conversation. The stream will be back momentarily, folks.
I blame Blizzard.
You guys are gonna have to hop out. I'll make a new lobby.
Yeah, we'll exit the game.
Oh,
All right.
let me save character.
All right. Quit. But anyways, he reached out to us. I thought it was Peter Cullen. I was like, holy crap, dude, what's up? And he's like, I'm not Peter Cullen. I'm just a guy that made a mod in StarCraft 1 back in the day. And we started talking. He showed me his previous work. I thought I was huge. I instantly became a huge fan of his work. And we hit it off really good, and we slowly started developing the SCU story. So I wrote the story, but I deferred to 3 other writers who are heavy into StarCraft lore. One was Eric, obviously. The other one was Free Space, who did our CG trailer, the creator of Final Metamorphosis, and
That trailer was awesome.
Kiefer Traub, and Benjamin too. He was pretty big into the lore. So those guys were able to help out a lot, and Eric actually wrote quite a few of the lines that are in the game. But yeah, so I'm rambling again.
No.
But he I guess that's what I'm supposed to do on a stream, right? I'm supposed to ramble.
Yes.
Just talk.
Treat it more as like a podcast situation rather than a let's play. Let's
Yeah.
just talk.
Right. So yeah, he was the first voice actor that we brought in, and we're like, you know what? We need to make a whole story. Let's bring in more. Let's find more people. And Free Space introduced me to Danielle McRae, who did Karma in League of Legends, and she's Painwheel and Skullgirls and a few other games. And then I started recruiting some lesser known people like my mom. My mom is Strasha. I don't know.
Oh, she kicks ass.
Nice.
Yeah, she did a pretty good job. I was impressed.
She kind of
I
runs
tried
the
to get
ship,
my-
you know?
I tried to get my dad to do voice acting. It was terrible. I hope he doesn't see this, but he was so butthurt. He was like, "So where am I in the final cut of the game? Am I in it?" And I was like, "No." He's like, "You suck."
So the medic that we meet at the very beginning, it's kind of like implied that she's going to have more of a role to play, and maybe that'll come up after we go in the wormhole. I don't want to discuss that yet, but what I want to say is that I like her voice actress,
Yes.
and that there's a moment in Prologue 2 where you're running away, and she's clearly like, she has an issue with the Zerg, and I think that is 100% sold just with this little clip of her breathing,
Yeah.
where she's
Oh,
just
yeah.
like, and you like hear the panic in her, and I was like, God, I got a little emotional listening to it, and that was
Is that when she's running away from the Cerebrate?
Yeah, it was right
Yeah.
when after Decker was killed too, so that fits very well.
It was
Yeah,
super
I wish there was more time to do little details like that. Oh, it'd be so cool to work with like a AAA company and just make a full scale game. You know how I'd want to in a realistic situation. Not with.
Well, if you ever need absolutely terrible free voice acting, let me know.
Okay, I'll hit you up.
I have not found myself in the game yet. I was curious because I noticed that it seemed like a lot of the NPCs are named. Is that based off of the Indiegogo?
The named NPCs right now are from the Kickstarter.
Okay.
We have not implemented the Indiegogo named NPCs yet,
Gotcha.
so that will come.
Okay, so we're talking about the plot. Okay, well, first off, can someone reinvite me to the party? Second off,
Who's in the party?
I see you in it.
oh, I'm
I just
still
made
in
you
it.
leader.
It shows you as a leader.
I think we're, it's because I was the leader and I dropped out, so you guys will have to make a new party.
Okay.
Okay, so I think I was still in a party with yeah, I'm good
So
now.
everybody
All right,
leave.
I'll let you put it together, Jay.
Okay, so talking about the Indiegogo and Kickstarter awards and all that. So, do you want to talk about what the future of the mod is going to be like? It's a semi-elephant in the room to bring up. The Indiegogo did not meet its tier. It was sort of close, and it was still a good amount of money. So I'm curious to know what are we going to see more in the future? You talked about plot and wishing to be able to do more, or is it more what we have is what we're pretty much going to have, which is fine because I really enjoy the game as it is. But if you could touch on what we can expect.
Yeah. So, just to be completely transparent with everything, we went way over budget developing this game, and it incurred quite a bit of debt to myself and the company in general, and we just lost somebody in the lobby. Looks like we lost.
Me.
Yeah, we lost Dell.
It happens sometimes.
But I'll continue. So, the initial 18,000 of the Indiegogo was to get the company out of debt, and then funding beyond that was to recompensate the team for time put into the game. And we didn't even meet the initial funding goal to really be able to continue this. We've all returned to work full time. Philip's doing his master's thesis. Most people have sort of moved on to other things. If it were to continue in development, I would be the only one working on it. And Philip coded a lot of what is in the main game, so I would have to be doing a lot of script hunting to actually be able to build it up and work on it properly. So I do what I can, but at this point we've sort of kind of moved on to start other projects, and this isn't it's not to say that we're not going to work on it at all or ever again. We might get bored with our lives and come back and be like, okay, let's do an expansion for the game. But at this point, we've been working on it for 6 years, and there just comes a time when you have to cash in your chips and move on to the next big thing.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, nobody has ever here's the thing. Yeah, Red versus Blue is a great thing for Rooster Teeth, but it's not necessarily the thing that it was a good first project, showed off their potential, and I think that this might be the same thing for you guys. This is undeniably a work of art, and it will garner more attention as time goes on. But there's no harm in just going hey, we did the absolute best we could do as creators. Let's make more awesome stuff, and that's undeniably what you've done here is made awesome stuff.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Of course.
Appreciate that.
So as a final send off for the interview, that we can decide when to end it for the VOD interview, and if you want to hang out and we can keep playing after, that's cool too.
I love playing.
But what are your tips and tricks for the final section of the game?
Ooh. Well, go to the
Without
SC
spoilers.
go to the SC Reddit page and look up all of the most viable builds, all of the strategies. I like Pi Bob Bobson. He wrote a really good strategy stratagem on how to operate the ship in very difficult situations. So you might want to read up on that. I would build, let's see. There's so many different things in the end of the game. Like it really is a test to kind of everything that you've done and learned so far in the game, with the exception of the final boss, who I like Pi claims is just a big RNG disaster, which he's sort of right about.
Great.
I heard the final boss takes about an hour to complete.
You just did a 2-hour raid.
Depending on what difficulty setting you're on, but yeah, he's very, very challenging. There are things that you can do to prevent yourself from dying, and if you can't complete them, on your first run, and you have to go, you'll get tokens when you're at the second to last boss and when you're at the last boss that allow you to continue back at that point with a new party in a new game later on. So as long as everybody else has those tokens, so you can respec and do what you feel you need to do to take them out.
Cool.
But yeah, you're gonna have to have extremely high reflexes on the final boss, and you will likely die.
I noticed in the achievement list it said lose your first fight against blank, the final boss, and then it just just said everybody does.
Like that, you will die. Yes.
So rude. Challenge accepted.
Do you two have any other follow-up questions, final questions?
I don't have a
might be
question
out.
per se, but just wanted to thank you again for, for you and your team making this game and allowing us to play it.
No problem, and I just want to say, well, thank you to you guys for featuring us on your channel and going through and playing so much of it. That's awesome, and thanks to everybody who supported our Kickstarter and our Indiegogo, because this literally would not have been possible without the time that you guys essentially bought us to be able to do this. So, thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you. I've put in many hours.
I didn't actually hear about this project until Jay was like, "Hey, did you know that someone did something awesome?" I said, "No," and I realized that I was too late for the Indiegogo and I was too late for the Patreon and whatever else you guys did. Is there anywhere that I can perhaps contribute and/or I'm trying to figure out the right word to describe this? Express my appreciation posthumously.
If you're talking about financially, we
Yes.
do. If you go to upheavalarts.com, there's a tab on the top where you can donate directly to our PayPal if you're inclined to do something like that. But you guys have really supported us already just by doing this and getting the word out for us. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Cool.
And we'll be putting many more hours into this.
So many more.
Yeah, if you're watching
I
this
have-
on YouTube, we have a huge series in which there will be many trials and tribulations, and it's been a blast. So I'm excited to finish the series.